go into a perfect mind freeze if I have to talk in public. So I have notes, but then I can't find them. But Kit told me that nobody will judge me. Okay.
Who are you?
Oh, and I'm Jenny Dennison. I sat next to Andy at the hearing table through all this. In the late '70s, there was a QA engineer that worked for Kaiser, that lived in New Richmond. I'm gonna just tell the New Richmond story. Vic Griffin. And he was the first person that spoke up as a whistleblower saying that the construction materials being used were inadequate. Either he was fired or he resigned. I've seen him both, but the man never was able to work again. He was harassed, his family was in need, and he died fairly early after that because of the pressure that was put on him. My son Chris went to high school with their daughter, Marge and Vic. Marge eventually did become a member of SAC. But from that to the construction, Maggie Irby was like the founding mother of ZAC in so many ways. She was so strong and so enduring. This woman had 10 children. And she worked tirelessly. She and a friend, Carol Meyer. Maggie lived right on 52, right near the Zimmer plant, across from the Zimmer plant. Carol Meyer lived up on the hill behind her. The two of them were very much afraid of the low-level radiation. And also adjacent to the Zimmer site was the Moscow Elementary School. So that there were several children involved, and they were very obsessed about this. Asked for a meeting. CG&E showed up, their PR department, I guess, with a slideshow, and talked to some of the village people, and assuming that they were bumpkins, treated them as such. They became, Maggie and the other people became more angry actually than being sued by anything CG&E could pull. And they started meeting in I think it was Frisch's. At that point, then I became involved, and Vicki was always involved. We started meeting frequently. We put our heads together. We did as much research as we could on nuclear power. Pretty much educated ourselves, formed the what we called ourselves SAC, Zimmer Area Citizens. At the same time, a group in northern Kentucky, Mary and Don Reeder and Sister Alice, formed the Kentucky ZAC, Z-A-C-K. And we managed to show up at just about every CG&E meeting, every hearing they had, every kind of public display that they could come up with. We would be there. Vicki, as our PR person, wonderful job in front of cameras. And and I've lost my train of thought, so don't judge me.
You guys would show up at the meetings.
I'm sorry.
You'd show up at the meetings.
Oh, yeah, well. There was a meeting that I attended. Sitting there, we were all middle class, middle-aged women mostly. And we would show up at meetings kind of unnoticed. And I was sitting at a CG&E meeting one day when the woman talking was describing how many of the CG&E people would dress up like demonstrators, whatever that meant. And they would attend our meetings. And I'm sitting there, you know, trying not to choke to death when she's telling this story, because I'm listening to CG&E from the other side. So then we started talking with Ken Conover, who was the director of, they called it disaster services at that point. It's now Claremont County Emergency Planning. Because he was one of the people that spoke to CG&E at the early meeting, and described the terrible effects that any kind of evacuation was gonna have. The roads, the schools, the people involved, volunteer, fire, volunteer, EMS people, they wouldn't be helping the citizens, they'd be helping their families. So we became very involved talking with him. That's when Andy wrote the voluminous intervention contentions, and I don't remember how many, but it was a stack. Because he spoke with all of these people. He spoke with the police chief of New Richmond. He spoke with the EMS people. He spoke with the fire people. So he was able to create this. There was a question about whether at that point we could intervene because we were late. Hearings had already begun. But we were allowed to intervene, and then I've forgotten when the hearings began again.
Not essential.
But I skipped the fact, can I backtrack? 3 Mile Island, and the huge crowd involving many people here that marched from Point Pleasant to Zimmer, which was 3 miles. Some trespass and civil disobedience, I won't get into because somebody else will.
Including some of the people here.
And after, this was a opposition to delivery of the nuclear fuel rods. And after that, Zach put their schedules together, and we developed a plan or a schedule to try and be at the gates morning and night to stop whatever we could have done, the delivery of the fuel rods. And we were there several weeks putting up with unbelievable abuse from the workers and from passersby. And at one point, when I was standing at the exit gate in the late afternoon, they threw urine-soaked papers all over me, but you know, those are the sorts of things that that we put up with. I know Vicki has a story about her mother being there. So then we were told that the fuel rods had been brought in by the river. So we kind of disbanded our little picket group. And I know there's a member of Zach here that after that, they put a boat on the, canoe on the Ohio River at night, and rode down by Zimmer.
Nancy,
After that, yes, Nancy, which was a scary thing to think about. And along that line, I remember David mentioning on the radio the other day, coming back across the river in I'm going to say a rowboat, but a John boat probably. And we used to do that, go across the river from Claremont to Mentor to the Kentucky ZAC meetings. And at one point, KET brought a camera and a crew to take pictures of us, you know, and going across the river and the ZAC meeting that we were attending, the Kentucky ZAC meeting. And I have to make a comment about, David's reference to, Eugene Sanger. I was appointed to a committee with Ted Isaacs. Eugene Sanger was on that committee with, Marion Spencer. And I'm not sure what I was doing there, but, Sanger was probably one of the most ugly kind of people I knew. He thought it was a joke, you know, that we would be afraid of a nuclear power plant. So as far as him being a good member of that committee, he was not. But I'm gonna stop and let Vicki talk a while. I want to make a point that, after John's, depiction of the hearings, the NRC Atomic Licensing Board, denied CG&E's license. It was the first time that had ever happened in the history to deny a license, because of poor evacuation planning. I remember calling Paulette, because I used to call her on the phone for comfort, in DC, and, she did a little research for me, and it was the first, we were the first group that had ever done that. And after that, several anti-nuclear groups wanted our, my goodness, our contentions, which we gladly gave. So, you know, when they say Zimmer was shut down because of poor construction, that's right, it was. But in the end, they were denied a license, so they couldn't have opened anyway.